Namaste and welcome to Get Set Green Season 3 in this podcast where purpose meets the plan. In today's episode of Climate Catalyst, we have Natasha, who is let's say, the founding member for Startup Cycling Now, and we will know more about her journey and what made her interested in this area and space. So I'm very excited to invite Natasha today. Hi, Natasha.
Hello, Pooja. Glad to be here on Get Sent Green with you.
We are happy because as I was reading about you and your journey, there were quite a lot of elements which I can relate to in from your story. So that I felt like on a personal note as well, I was interested to see like how that turned out for you. So with that, maybe we will jump into this. My first question to you would be, can you please tell us that, about your journey, how you began this in the first place, and what was the thought process for you to start this startup cycling now?
So, actually, I enjoy trekking. And when I was trekking with my kids, there was so much of waste on the top. And this happened everywhere, not only to at one or two sites that we had gone for a trek to, but I would say across India. And that's when it got me start thinking that, someone's got to do something about this. And like you go up on a trek in order to, I would say, feel one with nature. It doesn't feel nice. It is a lot of garbage over there,
Yeah,
especially
if
a lot of
otherwise,
plastic
yeah.
waste. Yeah, which nothing you know for a fact that nothing's going to happen to it. It's just going to lie there. So yeah, so it started off actually with a lot of art installations at various festivals like Morindigo, Palagoda Art Festival, the Tata Marathons. But then it also dawned on me that you can make only so many art installations and
Mm,
you need to do something on a more consistent basis. And that's how basically San was born. We also started out with a lot of workshops initially for corporates, for schools, so that you could start upcycling by yourself. And that is why the name is Start Upcycling Now. So the
yeah.
idea is where very simple ways where you can start upcycling, the waste you have. And along with that, channelize the waste which you generate every day. That is basically what we aim at doing, because I would say even if Mumbai or even if India can, right now increase the amount of channelizing of waste, we would be a very rich and a very healthy country.
Yeah, and also we should never forget that there is a lot of resources which will go into waste, which can be upcycled, reused, or refurbished, right? So,
Absolutely.
what is the observation, Natasha, from your experience as you have worked with, let's say, schools and corporate communities, etc.? That what is the behavioral aspect or change needed in today's for from turning from the point of awareness to action? What is the key to that?
So I would say there's a lot of talk right now, Pooja. I'm sure you will agree with me. Everybody wants to talk about sustainability, about going organic, but
Mm-hmm.
the action, on ground action, seems to be missing. And or rather, it was missing. Now it's slowly happening. Though I would love for it to happen much faster, because the stark realities are that a lot of changes have to happen immediately. But
Mm-hmm.
it's great that change is happening, because earlier, uh, and even now, rather, a lot of people still, put the blame on someone else with respect to the waste that
Because
they
that's easier,
produce.
right?
Yeah, of
Just
course.
saying, just blaming
Yeah,
somebody
it's
else.
very easy to victimize yourself and say, I'm the victim here, so I can't do anything about it. But,
Mm-hmm.
everything can change only when you stop becoming the victim and start doing something about it, right?
That's true, yeah. And also, maybe on some level, I do agree because though I meet a lot of change makers and everyday people are trying to make an active effort towards sustainability, but I still have to agree to your point that the stark reality sometimes it's harder when you see the ground reality of, like, let's say, like how things are handled. And of course it boils down to me and you, people like us, like what as a person can we do and implement some behavioral changes with respect to how we treat our waste. These are very key elements before we put blame on anybody else, right? Like,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, whether it may be, let's say, the government point of view, the waste collections, we though the existing system is trying to adopt in a, let's say, quite dynamic way, because earlier we didn't have this dry waste and wet waste segregations, right? The pollution control board and, let's say, the even solid waste management rules, from the systemic point of view there are some changes. I agree, if we can move much rigorously than what we are, we can bring the change. But with all these changes, even if we have, but what matters most is that, like, how people take these changes and adapt to these. So that is how you can make an impact, is what I also feel. And that brings me, to the next question, where I wanted to talk about this. Every time when I see the waste management, I often hear the word recycling,
Yeah.
but can you please tell me that why did your focus shifted on upcycling, and like how waste changing, let's say, how do we have to see this waste for upcycling aspect from your point of view?
So, when you recycle something, the value of it actually reduces. When you upcycle it, the value of it actually increases, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think we as a nation are so skilled at doing jugaad. So it's it's so second nature for us to upcycle and make better items out of it rather than recycling it. The other thing is uh, recycling, like in India, there's a lot of mechanical form of maybe recycling or upcycling. Means like we don't particularly change the chemical constitution of the product. It stays as it is, it just would become smaller. So when
Mm,
things are like that, it's actually much easier to upcycle them and reuse it into a better product. So
yeah.
yeah,
And yeah.
which is much better, rather than recycling and reducing the value of the product.
Yeah, and it is not completely true, because sometimes what happens is, whether when it comes to the metal industries, right, where we have steel and few other products, even after recycling, of course, material composition that does matter, because it doesn't have much impurities as a product. It doesn't reduce its efficiency, whether it may be the physical capability or the strength of the product. It doesn't change much. So upcycling can also be defined in a way where that, instead of poking at the material composition, if you can bring an additional value out of it without
Correct.
changing its inherent qualities, right? So that's how we can see the upcycling part of it, for Natasha.
Yeah.
And I believe, as you already mentioned, you worked with a lot of corporates and as well as students in different communities in this space, right? Could you please share your experience on that? Like, how did you connect with them, and what were, if you can, maybe give us few insights from these conversations?
So, with respect to, so I've done a lot of sensitizing workshops with schools and corporates, and I actually enjoy working with schools just because it's kind of like a ripple effect, like you give them an idea and they actually start internalizing it and taking it to different levels. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so we had done, and this is across different types of waste which comes out. So we had done this work with this school called Billabong International
Okay.
School
Mm.
and it was on textile based. So
Okay.
they did first we did a sensitizing on the amount of waste that the children generate just by virtue of just being a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old, how much of waste they generate. So they figured how many bags they have, how many shoes they have, how many nail polishes they have, right?
Hmm.
And then we realize that we don't really need so much, right?
Yeah.
We also checked out certain documentaries, and there are amazing documentaries on Netflix, um, where we're understanding how much of waste is being generated, so much that we can't consume that much of waste, and then very very often we'll end up giving even tagged or labeled waste. I mean, tagged clothing items,
Mm-hmm.
donating it just because we've not really got the opportunity to use it. So we become
Mm-hmm.
aware of our own habits. And I would say that is the first place, the first instance when you start becoming aware, like, okay, fine, I don't really need to go and buy something at the Amazon sale or the Flipkart sale or the monsoon sale or anything because I actually already have so much, right?
Yeah.
So
And
first is
yeah,
to
yeah,
become
please.
first is to become aware, and once you become aware, then the second thing was what we did in the school. Also, we did a swap. So
Hmm.
we had asked a lot of all the kids to get clothes, and then it was bifurcated into different categories, and the children could swap. Like, just like if they donated maybe 5 or 10 items, they could take a few items
Hmm.
as well. What was and we've also done this with toys as well, all right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
toy swap. And what was
Yeah.
really interesting is children normally take only one or two things. Okay. Their
Hmm.
parents would take maybe three or four. And the
Okay, the
grandparents take the most.
yeah. Maybe they are not corrupted by capitalism when they are
Yeah.
really
Yes.
young, so that
Exactly.
can be
And
the
they only
reason.
take what they need, you know? So and but it's the dawn of the realization that we don't really need so much. This is exactly what we need, and we can actually live very happily with this much. So,
Yeah, and addressing this is also quite important, I feel, because let's say the amount of production of all the products, goods, everything included is so much that we don't require such amount of, let's say, the um, products all together for us to survive. Maybe, let's say, if
absolutely.
we can do it with one, but rather the options are so much, you end up buying, let's say, 5 to 10 more, which is not
Exactly.
serving its purpose. And
True.
if at all, I think there is another pleasing way of saying this. You can actually save money by not buying and maybe use it for your any trip. It can be as simple as
Yeah,
that,
for
because you
travel,
will end up saving a lot of money if you
absolutely.
stop buying unnecessary stuff whenever the
Yeah.
sale goes on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it could be as easy as just clothes or
Yeah.
accessories. That because when you realize that you have so much and you don't need it, that's when you start making a change, and that I would say is super important, because when you start making the change, that is when you start on the journey of reducing. And only when you start reducing the waste that you're consuming, you're
Mm.
actually making an impact to the end amount of waste which would come at a material recovery facility or finally to the landfill, and that's super important.
Yeah. And for me, what is the striking point from your explanation is that at a very young age, let's say if children have this maybe self awareness, if I can say, that what is my requirement, and let's say why do I even need this product, as you rightly mentioned, right? They started thinking of how many bags do I have, how many pairs of shoes do I own. So all these things, if we can inculcate them and instill these values of questioning everything and making an wise choice before you buy any product, this can be a very small thing, but it will become such a big impact, because let's imagine all the gen alpha or gen beta are given this education, then the whole scenario of how the consumerism will work and how the capitalist kind of manufacturing will work will change completely, because buyers are the power, are giving the power to the manufacturers. Let's say wherever
Correct.
you spend money is nothing but you are transferring your power to somebody else. whether
Right.
it is time. Somebody watching this, they are giving their own time for this, which is nothing but power for us. And somebody spending money on something, let's say for any services, that is giving power to somebody else. It
Right.
always
Right.
doesn't have to be that, let's say, purchase of only goods, right? Wherever we spend our time, what do we consume, and where do we put our money to, is everything
Right.
will result in these aspects, Natasha.
Right.
And that actually took me away, because I do have a same, let's say, part of my journey. Because when I started podcasting, even I had this feeling of, I was deeply disappointed, I would say, or feeling hopeless, whenever you say bags and bags of rubbish or garbage thrown outside here and there. And because all these animals, stray animals, and they are not, so let's say, they don't have an arrangement of food for everyday basis requirement, so they will end up eating whatever is thrown out on the streets. So it is very, let's say, disheartening to see that whatever happens with respect to the waste. And these are all the moments which led me to actually to this point where I also wanted to share the stories of people who are making change. So that, yeah, that is how I can relate to you. That is one of the my starting points also,
Right.
Natasha. Yeah.
Right.
And I was also thinking, if we can talk about the circular economy part, right? Whether it is recycling or upcycling part of it. Do you have, or do you see any connection, let's say, from urban farming, the composting part? Like, can you see the connection, or do you feel like, will that be a better idea to go forward with?
Yeah, of course. I think circularity is very key, Pooja. Like, let me tell you the circularity of waste. Okay. Uh, in Mumbai, okay,
Hmm.
all our dumping grounds are very close. Mumbai is an island, right? So all the waste is basically on. Sorry, all our landfills are very close to the sea, or basically they're on mangroves, right?
Yeah.
So during the monsoons, all our waste finally kind of ends up going directly back into the sea, right?
Mm.
So I'm going to share with you the circularity of waste. Okay, so
Mm.
we are eating waste, we are dumping it. It's either going into the nala and it's going to the sea, or it's going to the landfill. From the landfill, because the landfills are next to the sea on mangroves, it's again going back
Mm.
into the sea there.
Mm-hmm.
There is an NGO called Toxic who did uh who did an analysis of all the salt, top 10 brands of salt in Mumbai, and they found microplastics inside all of them. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, now you are seeing how the circularity of the plastic waste which we're throwing out from our house is going
Mm.
into the sea and coming back onto our plate and finally inside us, right? And that
Yeah.
is basically one of my reasons why I was saying is like there's so much of talk happening, but action is so important to happen. And because as a country, I would say we've got such amazing innovations that have happened in the space of waste management, in the space of recycling and upcycling. So,
Yeah.
for example, like I'm also working on a product where we would be making pavement blocks from the MLP and the PP waste. So that is the bhaji bags or the FMCG products like your chips and biscuit wrappers, which is very very difficult to recycle, and again they're very low hanging. Uh, what do you say? Low value of products. So
Mm-hmm.
we are looking at channelizing all of this so that we can make it into pavement blocks. And so, the plastic basically gets locked properly into a pavement block and can come back and can be consumed within the city, because we've got so much of redevelopment happening left, right, and center.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we can consume very easily, and more importantly, lock it so that it's not coming back into our body. Like, I don't know if you're aware, Pooja, but
Mm.
as an urban Indian, you and I already have a credit card size of plastic waste inside us already, right? And
Okay.
that is also
I'm not
why,
sure about the data, because let's say, if we can check and
yeah, yeah, no,
understand the details of
this
it.
data has been published by ISRO. So,
ISRO.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Then,
So,
yeah, I will
yeah,
definitely read
yeah,
about this. Yeah.
yeah. So it's all factual data, and
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important that we actually do something to stop the waste from going back into the sea, going back into the nalas, and coming,
Mm-hmm.
to us. Even from, throwing those bags of puja flowers into the sea or
Yeah,
the nalas. I think that would be something like, while the puja flowers are absolutely fine because it's biodegradable, the
yeah,
packaging is not fine,
yeah.
right? But you can't say that no tradition asks us to do it, so we have to do it, because there are other options, that you have those Nirmalya pots everywhere, and
Mm.
those are options which are already available. But I think as a concerned citizen, or even not even as a concerned citizen, even as a mom or dad, or as a person who just
I
wants to
think
be healthy,
it would be more
you
like a
need to take,
responsible citizen. Yeah,
like I would say all moms or dads would be responsible, right? And
yeah.
you definitely don't want plastic to go inside you, nor do you want it to happen for your children, right?
Mm-hmm.
I,
Yeah,
I would say, even on that very, very basic and granular level, it is very important for you to see that you are channelizing your voice. And that's
yeah.
actually where we as an organization are doing something about it. So you may know that we have a Blue Bag project,
Mm-hmm.
where we sign up for societies, and like housing societies. So basically what happens is, we have this project for housing societies, because we
Mm-hmm.
require material to be at source segregated. We have blue bags, where every flat gets a set of 6 blue bags with a unique QR code on it, which is linked to the building name, the flat number, and mobile number of one person in that flat. And they can put all their clean dry waste and everything, from the baji bags that you get in the market to your um your grocery bags. So you've gone and you've picked up dal, chawal, lentils, etc., all those bags, the soap of washing soaps, all the packaging material, all like your blankets, takeaway containers, all of that get put inside this bag,
Mm-hmm.
along with your glass, your metal, your plastic, hair oils, shampoo bottles, sachets, etc. And we collect it from the building once a week, because generally a family of four takes about 1 day to fill up a bag. And once,
But how about this wet waste? Because it starts producing, let's say,
yeah,
a
not
bad
so.
odor after a
So
day or two.
puja wet waste is something like we can tackle a little later, because
Mm.
I would say waste management is something that needs to grow on you. So uh, at least if the dry waste is channelized properly this way,
Mm-hmm.
because it is clean, we everyone gets paid at 4 rupees a kg for their dry waste,
Mm-hmm.
and because it's clean, it can actually be sorted and recycled, which is very important, because as a country, we already have a rule which says that 25% of the plastic waste that any new product is made of has to have recycled plastic, and we are importing that. So it's not that we don't have enough. We have a lot. It's just that we have to channelize it properly, so that it's
And yeah,
better for
because like
us.
this 25% also it varies, right? As per EPR rules, extended producer responsibility from the new amendments, what we have. So it depends on the kind of, let's say, the material and how much the recycling quality should be included in the production of the same. So yeah, and even though there is availability, what happens is, if I can see from the manufacturing point of view, the availability and the quality of the material is also very important when we go for
Absolutely. Yeah.
recycling. Yeah,
Yeah.
because if we don't have the constant supply of materials, it will affect the running of the
Yeah.
plant. So these are like, if we can fix this, the all, maybe the loose ends in the value chain, then we will be able to execute this in like much more efficiently than what we have currently right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely right on that. So, and this is easy, right? If I
Hmm.
ask you to keep clean dry waste in your house, that's easy for you to do.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not that you require a different set of skills to do that, right? So,
Yeah.
like,
Yet
almost,
it is very rare, Natasha, today.
yeah. So, in fact,
Sadly.
today only I had a conversation with someone who was like, the conversation went to, but we are already segregating and giving it to the BMC. So why do we need to do this as well? And the idea is the idea is this, that it we are even as a city, we have a really huge population. And and while the BMC is
Overcrowded, yeah.
yeah, and while the BMC is doing the best that they can, as a responsible citizen, you can channelize it better
No,
when
I
options are
agree on
available.
this
Yeah,
point totally, Natasha, because the kind of pressure all these, let's say, central municipality authorities have is tremendous. I agree that they are trying to do their job, their level best, but also as citizens of the urban, maybe the localities, we also have to maybe be proactive in seeing this issue,
absolutely.
right? Because it becomes very difficult to handle lot of waste.
Yeah,
And per day, if we are generating more than 5 or 6 mld, it becomes like a big headache for any
yeah,
authority to
it's
deal with.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we are producing about 7,500 tons, right, of
Mm,
kgs, 7,500 tons for 75 lakh kgs every day, which
mm,
has actually led to our our waste mountains growing so
mm,
much so that it comes in their way of planes taking off. So that is the rate at which we are growing. Our
mm,
waste is increasing, and
yeah.
especially what happens during the monsoons is all these mountains of waste, their size increases because it swells with the water,
Yeah.
and it's actually like it's actually difficult for actually have JCBs running over it to flatten it out.
Mm,
So
yeah.
it is super super important for people to do something about it.
Yeah, and also one more point in this is the material, whatever is present in the landfill, it also starts reacting. What
Yeah,
happens is like there will be this brown liquid called leachate which will be producing from the landfill, which
right.
can be very toxic
Yeah,
depending on the composition of material. Let's say if at all it is having e-waste or any electronic items also, it can be detrimental
absolutely.
for the soil quality which is beneath the landfill.
In fact, 26% of the pollution in the city is from the landfills, air pollution. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And another interesting fact, again, this is all published by ISRO, is every day, every hour,
Mm-hmm.
okay, about 6,500 kgs of methane gas is released into the air. And one reason why all Mumbaikas are still alive is because we have the sea so close by, which
Mm.
keeps us alive. But it's also one of the reasons that a lot of us suffer from cough and cold throughout the year. So it's not it this the a lot of people think that waste management, yeah, it will affect future generations. It's affecting us now. It's affecting
Now,
us
yeah.
today.
Gone are the
Yeah,
days where you can say that, it's upcoming effect. It will
yeah, yeah,
affect our later generations. No,
yeah,
not
yeah. It's
anymore. It's happening right now. Right now, as
yes.
we speak, it is already going on.
Absolutely. In fact,
Yeah.
in there is also data, okay, which has shown that even breast milk has microplastics inside it.
Yeah, and
So, yeah,
sometimes it also depends for us. Like, what I also advise to the audience or the listener is like try reading more about the literature or the published works from, let's say, well certified journals,
absolutely,
because sometimes
absolutely,
the data can be misleading, and I am not sure how people can react to it. Suddenly, if we have new mothers who are very concerned about few aspects of it, please don't be concerned. This is just an FYI. If you're listening and you have like if you are a newborn, if you are having a newborn baby at house, please be don't worried about let's say the breastfeeding and few other aspects of it in terms of the quality or etc. Only point from my side would be, please verify the resources whenever you are reading, whether it is
Yeah.
an article or a video from the internet, even whatever we are discussing, please cross verify. And we also try as much as possible from our side to keep the resources, or to even say from where we are stating the facts, right?
Yeah.
So that is one point from my side.
In fact, there is a really nice uh, documentary called Detox
Mm-hmm.
Plastic on Netflix, which would be great uh, for an urban citizen to see, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
you come to realize that there are so many ways through which plastic gets into our system.
Mm-hmm.
So and it opens your eyes, and actually makes you aware that, okay, you should. I think some time ago there was an article about reading the labels and
Yeah.
right of whatever you're buying. And
Mm.
if the good thing is right now that everyone's like, we have Chat GPT, and even if you take a picture of the label and put it on Chat GPT and ask them what is plastic from this, it will tell you very easily that this is plastic. And then you could decide whether you want to go ahead and buy a particular soap, or you want to buy a particular lipstick or cosmetic, because then you become aware that, oh my gosh, this has plastic inside it.
Yeah. And the key important material for any consideration would be that you have to be well aware on what you're buying. Any product it may be, it can be as simple as a small chips packet which we buy every day, right? How often do we read the ingredient list, or how often are we aware of the contents of it, whether it may be carbohydrate, fats, lipids, or what kind of oil they are using, right? Everything is very important. So if we can maybe try and understand the way of, let's say, spending some time on understanding the composition of the product, and also to see what are all the ingredients it is consisting or made up of, and what effects can it cause. And cosmetics, yes, there are lot many things which are available in the market which are not completely safe, and it can cause, let's say, huge endocrine disruptors and many various, I don't know how many chemicals, or the way the cosmetic industry is going on. It is very important, if at all we have the good and well manufactured cosmetics, well and good. But the ones which we find with no proper data, and if they are being manufactured with not, let's say, in a very proficient and efficient way, then that will have a long term effect, whether it may be on health or as well as on the environment also, to be honest.
So Pooja, on this note, interestingly, while there are laws to, reduce microplastics going into the sea or land, okay, interestingly, there are not there, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but there are not many laws with respect to the use of plastic in cosmetics, detergents, and products that we use at home. So
Uh,
that is
uh,
basically that.
Natasha, yeah, yeah. So
No,
what
so
I will
yeah.
say is, like, we do have laws on that, like any product, because any chemical or any material which we buy, whether it is for personal hygiene or for, let's say, the cleaning purposes, they are supposed to be bound by certain proportion of that particular chemical. They cannot go beyond, which can cause any kind of effect. And it will be monitored by, as far as my understanding, in India it will be dealt by this Federation of Drug Associate. I am
So
very wrong with my memory, I cannot see
no,
the
like,
like
what
full.
I mean to say is, like, where you have these micro beads in
Hmm.
your toothpaste, or you
Hmm.
have it
Hmm.
in the face wash.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So the micro beads are also plastic. So
Yeah, what I'm
what I'm
trying to
No, what I'm
say
saying is
is,
that you have to
yeah,
be
yeah,
aware that these things are
yeah.
there. Like, I'm just
Hmm.
saying it out of concern for people who might be aghast by what they're hearing.
Hmm. Hmm.
You be
Hmm.
aware, and you can always cross check it just by taking a picture of it and cross checking it on a Chat GPT, or
Hmm.
see
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
are the contents, and then use your products, or use whatever you want to use, being aware of what is inside it, so you are
Yeah,
safe. Yeah.
yeah. I agree. Being well aware and educated on what we are applying on the surface
Yeah.
of our skin, or what we are inhaling, or what we are ingesting, like eating, everything, it is very important to clarify. But to your question, Natasha, yes, we do have such criterias whenever a product is being manufactured. Maybe we can take an example of, let's say, lipstick,
Yeah.
where any composition which might affect, because it is applied on skin and you can also consume it in the process. So what I was trying to say is, like, any product, let's say especially coming from the cosmetics point of view, we do have a standard which has to be followed from the government of India, where they try and track, they will prescribe, let's say you are not supposed to go beyond certain limitations of any particular chemical or whatever it may be. But we do have, as a regulatory stand, it is there.
That's correct. Yeah.
But the monitoring might vary. I'm not sure like how actually the monitoring goes on, especially when it comes to India. But if we speak of the western countries, right, there they have this really rigorous, let's say, the benchmarks and the standards, where you cannot and you will never be able to exceed those quantities whenever you're manufacturing. And this goes for all the baby products, right? Personal care for any baby products, they are very crucial, and they are very strict about, like, any product which comes into contact with small children, babies. So yeah, we do have regulations around that to monitor the what is actually the composition of the product. And that brings to me the last question I wanted to talk to you on is, so Natasha, as someone who is building a purpose driven organization, right, what have you learned about turning sustainability into something that can actually scale and sustain itself? Because sometimes, even though you have good intentions, in the market you need to have this standpoint to maintain a business, right? So
Right.
that's what I wanted to know from you, Natasha.
I would say being sustainable and financially stable is super, super important from any business point of view. And uh, I think like a lot of people I know are passion driven with respect to sustainability. Uh, but it's like I would say, uh, finally, even when you're selling your product, or even if you're purchasing a product, you will always check and see whether it like, especially if it's something that has to happen on on a daily basis, or it's a service that you have to use daily, everything will be justified, or everything will be valued as per commercial items. So that is something that you have to always consider, even if you're giving a good
Yeah.
sustainable system in place. And then, having considered that first, then when you have like, say, vis-a-vis the other commercial viable items, if yours is more sustainable, then you actually have, like, it's a brownie point. And especially younger generations, corporates, even schools are more uh, then looking forward to work with you rather than, your other peers in the market. So that's generally how it stands right now. But price wise, it would be the same, or if it's
Yeah,
even
that is
lower
the
or something.
difficult challenge
Yeah.
to crack, right? Because you cannot go beyond the set standard, because then it becomes, let's say, not so desirable for any
Yes.
consumer.
Yes. Yes. So
And you
it
also have the, let's say, the value chain constraints, because since you're procuring sustainable materials and resources, of course it will be on a much higher cost than
yeah,
other, let's say, the material available otherwise, incumbent
absolutely. Because
materials.
one thing which we do not consider in production is backward integration. It is like it's like this, right? Supposing if like they're making Pepsi, and so they've considered the cost of, the bottle, the labeling, the logistics of transporting it from the factory warehouse to the retail outlet, but they've not considered the cost of getting the bottle back. So when
Mm,
you are doing any sustainable item and you're getting that bottle back, that cost is actually high only because it's not been considered. It's not been systemized. Like, earlier when I was younger, or rather there was a system of, rather, milk bottles, even the thumbs ups and soft drinks rather, you would get a rupee back for the glass bottle. And because that was systemized, it was doable, and everyone gave it back. But this backward integration has actually been omitted right now, which is why recycled products, upcycled products become a little bit more expensive. And but the good thing is people are aware of it right now. Earlier they just said just because it's recycled or upcycled, they're making it expensive. But this is the actual reason. The cost of collection and then transformation, that that is basically why your recycled products are a, a, a little bit more expensive, but people are aware now, and maybe hopefully at some point of time, backward integration gets considered by corporates so that it can happen, at a better scale.
So how do you tackle this as a when you started as a startup? Because you had this, let's say, challenges in the existing scenarios. How did you cope with it then?
So, see, what we do, we provide a service,
Mm,
Pooja. So we provide a service of waste management.
mm,
So while some people do like say the BMC right now comes and picks up waste and then goes and puts it at the dumping ground. So what we inform people is that we are taking your waste. Okay, we have our own center, but it's a center that we are paying rent for which
mm,
we have manpower on, for which we will process, like especially for food waste. It has a 30-day processing cycle. So
mm-hmm.
I was like, the whole cycle has to be completed, and that is why you will be paying a little bit. You will be paying more than you were giving it to the municipality, because over there, like the municipality is of course a much bigger body, so you can't even compare it to
Yeah,
to an entrepreneur. And these are
yeah.
all costs that as an entrepreneur you take. So this is what we would tell people. But be rest assured that everything that you're actually you're giving to us becomes compost. And the compost then we would give to the society back about 20 or 30 kgs of compost back, which then can be consumed within the garden, which has super soil web enhancement properties and improves even the air quality and the plants which are growing out. So this is
Okay.
the benefits that you get. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, it is a little bit expensive because it's a lot more work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you, Natasha, for joining us on Get Set Green and for reminding us that the way we see our waste can change the way we live. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if this conversation made you look at your own waste differently, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have a change maker or a sustainability story you would like us to feature, please do send our your suggestions and follow Get Set Green.